say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. In Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler.
A soft place to fall. Yeah, a soft place to fall.
I want to be pleasing in your sight. That's my daily prayer. Lord, I want to be pleasing unto you. That's our Feel God song of the day, done for us by Joel Jones and 3MC. It's available on all digital platforms or wherever you purchase your music. I encourage you to make it part of your collection. Welcome to another episode of A Soft Place to Fall, a very special episode, very near and dear to me. What it's like to be a black man in America in these days. Our three dynamic guests will join us today and take us on a journey of the things that they've experienced being a black man and how they found their soft place to fall. You don't want to miss a minute of this special episode. But for now, here's how I'm feeling. Celebrate God all day, every day. I mean, revel in Him. Make it as clear as you can to all you meet that you're on their side, working with them and not against them. Help them to see the Master's about to arrive. He could show up any minute. Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worries at the center of your life. Summing it all up, friends, I'd say you'll do best by filling your minds and meditating on things true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious, the best, not the worst, the beautiful, not the ugly, things to praise, not things to curse. Put into practice what you've learned from me, what you've heard and saw and realized. Do that, and God, who makes everything work together, will work you into His most excellent harmonies.
A soft place to fall.
Have you ever been driving in your car, minding your own business, and a police car pulls up behind you and flashes their lights, and you break out into a cold sweat? Have you ever walked into a store, a grocery store, a convenience store, whatever kind of store it is, and the person approaching you as you're entering the store shuns away from you and clenches their purse as if to protect themselves, or even walk past their door and they hit the automatic lock? Have you ever been stereotyped as a no-good father without anybody even knowing anything about you? Or if you haven't experienced any of that, you're probably not a black man. Welcome to another edition of A Soft Place to Fall. And today we are going to talk about being black, a male in America. I'm joined today on the couch with my brothers, Martin Louper, Adrian Spurlock, and back by popular demand, Pastor Charles Chenier. So, gentlemen, please introduce yourselves to our viewers.
Well, my name is Martin, and I just feel like I'm originally from New Orleans and just living life and loving it and just trying to be the best man I can be and be passionate, live the purpose of God and trying to live for others.
Adrian Spurlock, native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, just living life and taking it one day at a time.
Charles Chenier, born and raised Baton Rouge, Louisiana, just navigating through life.
You all three said something very interesting, living life, navigating through life, and we must be real about this thing. That's a pretty difficult thing to do. being a black man in this era that we're living in. And I mentioned, the simple things like the police officers pulling up. I don't know if any of you, I'm sure you have, had that same experience. Anybody want to kind of jump in and kind of expound on that? Because you had said something very important before the cameras were rolling about how we need to talk to our young brothers about how to handle themselves in situations like that.
Yeah, I had a incident that happened a few years ago where I was stopped by the police. I pulled into a gas station, and police got out the car, asked me, you know why I stopped you? Of course, no, I don't know. And he said, oh yeah, the light was out. I said, okay. Yeah, I wanted to see my information and everything. And so he proceeded to shine his light on the back seat of my car. And I just came back from filming some stuff. We got to do video production as a job. And so I was telling him that's my equipment. And his comment to me was, I want to make sure you didn't have a weapon so you could have something to shoot me with. And immediately when he said that, I was like, I could say something. I could, get angry, but I'm thinking I want to make it home. Mm-hmm. So I looked at his badge number and I looked at his name, and he gave me a citation for the light, whatever. And of course I took care of that later. But at that moment, it's like, just because you automatically assume that particular thing, and so going back to what you were saying, it's like, you have to talk to your young men and stuff like that, because just because you're right, that doesn't mean that it's going to be seen that way.
Exactly.
By them. And they, always saying, you don't want to be aggressive, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that, and everything to escalate. Because I could have said some things to escalate that situation, but it's weird that we have to be the ones to de-escalate sometimes.
As best as we can.
The best as we can, when it should be the other way around. Yeah.
And it's sad to say, but that's how society looks at us. I was having a conversation with my young nephew, and he's very tall in stature. I said, first of all, your size, the first thing they're going to say is that you're very intimidating. And then the way you carry yourself, they're looking at all of that. And it's really unfair. And of course, with the recent things that have happened with police brutality, these things have been going on for years, literally for years. And society plays a major role in how we're perceived and how we have to protect ourselves. Which kind of leads to the next little thing that I wanted to talk about, is how society looks at us, and even within the family circle, how families are always looking to the father to do everything, and everything that's not done, they're taking a really hard shot at that. And I know Pastor Charles Chenier, you have a family, and so we talked a little bit about the society. Let's kind of move towards the family image of the black man in America these days.
Well, in this day and time, it's like the family, they look at the father figure as some sort of a hero, a superhero. Like, we're not allowed to be human. We're not allowed to have feelings. We're not allowed to have emotions. And like I say, society, they put so much emphasis on the mom, which, don't get me wrong, we salute the moms, they're great, but we never really take our time to salute the fathers, the real ones. We never really take time to look at the sacrifices that a father has to make for the sake of his family. Even those fathers who may not necessarily be living in the same home with his kids, because even when you look at it from that standpoint, a father who's not in the same home as his kids, he not only have to take care of his home, but he also have to take care of the home of those kids as well. So we don't look at the sacrifices that, fathers make.
Yeah, and it's incredible that there's so many young fathers coming up. And I think part of the problem with them is they didn't have anybody to model their fatherhood behind a model, even being a husband and things of that nature. So that kind of falls into a generational trap, so to say. That, you know, you can only mimic what you experienced in life. Martin, I know that you came from New Orleans. And New Orleans is, believe it or not, I always consider New Orleans to be a completely different world. So
Yes,
growing
it
up in
is.
New Orleans, being a black man,
Oh yeah.
I know that there are a lot of challenges that you obviously face as well.
Oh yes. And then for me, it was growing up with the way I grew up. My dad and my parents and all my elders taught me that people were people.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up in New Orleans, it was like I had a Hispanic friend. Growing up, I had a Hispanic friend and a white dude as my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up all the way through grade school. And then I'll go to their house, they'll come to my house, and the whole thing. So, you know, for me, it was just the different vibes of, I didn't experience the whole thing of, racism and seeing, you know, cut people different and things of that nature. And then, the thing of that nature. So for me, it was just like, here was the first time I experienced any sense of really overt racism.
Mm.
Really, like where people
Right.
are looking at you,
Right,
but
okay.
they're not. They're looking at you as lower.
Right.
You know.
Right. And it's interesting that you should say that. I spent a lot of time in New Orleans as well. And when I would come home, because I went to college down there, and then when I would come home, I could tell the difference in how things were handled. I tell everybody about a situation when I first moved back to Baton Rouge. I had all of this wonderful job experience, and I presented my resume and I applied for a job. I'm not going to go into details because if I start talking about who it was and where it was, it will be quite obvious. But I had applied for this job, and looking at my resume, you know, of course, they were very impressed in the name. So I got a phone call to come in for an interview. Came in for the interview, and the person walked out that was conducting the interview, and when she looked up, she said, "Kerwin?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh, I have a meeting that just came up. We're gonna have to reschedule." I was like, "No, you don't. You didn't realize I was black." But I don't think things like that were happening. They were probably happening around you. You just didn't recognize it.
Maybe so. We're
We're going to come back and we're going to talk more in depth about being a black man in America right here on A Soft Place to Fall. Are you covered, protected, and prepared? Don't you want to ease your mind by having the confidence that when the time comes, you and your loved ones are protected and insured? It's as easy as picking up the phone and calling licensed life agent Enidra Wells, 225-936-6017. With care and compassion, Enidra will walk you through the entire process of having you and your loved ones covered, protected, and prepared. No exams. Most pre-existing diagnoses are covered. No special requirements. So call today, 225-936-6017, and have the assurance of insurance.
A soft place to fall.
And we're back at A Soft Place to Fall, talking about being a black man in America. We talked about some really wonderful things that brought a lot of attention to what goes on society-wise. We talked a little bit about family. We'll talk a little bit about social media, and I know that everybody's probably looking at me because I got my phone in my hand, but I'm actually checking statistics and things of that nature. And social media has opened up a whole new world, and not only just for the black man, but we talking about black men,
Right.
and how we should conduct ourselves and handle ourselves in certain situations, be it in society and now in the digital world. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Adrian Spurlock, I mean, you are production, producer, director, and all those wonderful things. So how do you see us evolving and coming out, actually kind of changing the imaging of us, and how things can be need to be a whole lot different about how people are perceiving us.
Yeah, for myself, being in production and working with different films and things like that, I think how we change it and how it is changing is the roles that we are taking and the stands that we are taking in certain areas. Like when I first started doing, background or featured or extra stuff in movies and things like that, on purpose, if they wanted me to play a criminal, I didn't play it. But I would play a detective, I'll play an FBI agent, I'll play a teacher, I'll play something else, but I'm not playing a criminal, I'm not playing a drug addict, I'm not playing the gangster number one, and all those other things. Now those roles are out there, but in that arena, you change the narrative by the choices that you make in those areas. That's even as being a man, the idea of what a man is and what it means to be a man, how much money you make, how much you can lift, how many women you, whatever, all those things. And those things have nothing to do with being a man. They have to do with being a male. Because I remember this pastor used to say, being a male is a matter of birth, but being a man is a matter of choice.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that's an easy segue there, because my next thing was the role of a black man in the church. And all of these men, we are all entrenched in our ministries. And so what is it like for each of you? I'll pose that question. Being a black man in the church these days. Who wants to jump on it first? I think Pastor Charles Chenier should lead us off in that one.
Oh man, being a black man in the church. Honestly, you don't really see too many of them in the church. You see mostly women.
That's my point.
I feel like there should be more of us, for the simple fact that being a man, we should be leaders, and I think that that's what has caused the roles to reverse, because now you have more women being leaders, and the men are being kind of playing that background role.
So thank you, Pastor Charles Chenier, and we have another preacher sitting next to you. So how do you perceive the black male role in the church today?
Well, for me, growing up in church, from a child, I've seen it change or evolve over time. Like when I was younger, it was a lot of older men, a few of them there. You had the deacon, you had the pastors, and it was like you couldn't really relate to them. Because they looked like they were so old, they wasn't really connected with what we were talking about, or the music we liked. I remember when rap music Christian rap first came into the church, it was like, oh no, we can't do that. Right. You can't listen to that. That's the devil, And so, but over time, like Pastor was saying, that it's like you see a lot of women in the church and them taking the roles and stuff like that, and it's time for for men to actually stand up, take their rightful place. They're needed in the church, and young men need to see men of God and men being men in the church and taking those leadership roles and being mentors and being father figures to male and female, because we need to learn that and know that, and not just look at it one-sided or building up each other. The men don't have to tear the women down to build the men up, or the women don't have to tear the men down, to build up the women. We can build up each other and have something stronger. But I feel like, there needs to be more of a presence.
We need to be present.
Yeah.
And I know Martin works in the trenches at the church. He's doing all the things, media and everything else. So your role, how do you perceive the male? Because I know it's difficult getting other men to come in and help out and do things.
Correct. Yeah. And then for me, I find that it's leadership is by example. And what I mean by that is it's not so much as do what I say, do what I say because I say do it, and stuff like that. And that's just passed in church. That's just in being a man. Period.
Yeah, right.
And then, because a lot of times what men think of as leadership is, this is going off of the relationships a little bit, off the topic a little bit. It's going to go back to the topic. But a lot of times men think that leadership is, as a man, you're supposed to be in charge and tell people what to do and blah, blah. But it's really, people see your example. They see how you do something.
By example.
And they see what you're doing. And then once they see what you're doing, guess what? They follow suit.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And that happens in, like you say, just being a man, period. Not just in the church, in the streets, at home, because you never know who's watching. We're going to dive into something a little bit deeper when we return right here on A Soft Place to Fall. Being a black man in America today.
A soft place to fall.
And we're back at A Soft Place to Fall. Today we're talking about being a black man in America. That takes a lot. All right, brothers, I'm going there. Relationships. Relationships, the black male role in relationships. There is so much talk about there. There's not no good black men out there. All of them are either deadbeat dads. That is so far from the truth. They are saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, decent black men everywhere you turn. So, Pastor Charles Chenier, relationships, the black man's role in relationships these days.
So, like when I was here the last time, I spoke about how I've had 2 failed marriages, and I have 4 kids from those marriages. So meaning I've paid child support for all 4 of my kids. And being in court, every time I had to go to court, you never saw any other race in court for those type of things other than the black race. If you did see like another race, it was like maybe 1 or 2 here or there, but it was mainly us. And in court, they don't even hear the black man's side of the story. They only really hear like the other races, and that's because they are able to afford attorneys and things of that nature. By the time we get to a point where we can even know to get an attorney, you can't afford one because they already have you on child support and you paying so much till you barely even like living, and it's like, so what's happening is they're they're getting in your mindset or in women's mindset to automatically just cancel men out altogether, and so that's what's happening in relationships. It's like they're automatically canceling out the male in the relationship. When you look at social media today, 90% of social media is women bashing men.
So very true.
90% of social media is a woman saying that a good man is a man who's going to accept them for all of their flaws, all of their issues, and have to love them through all of their mess. But however, they're not going to love a man through all of his mess and all of his issues. So it's like from jump, it's like society has basically canceled, or they've gotten our mindset to just automatically cancel out the men or kill the men. If we haven't killed them physically, we're killing them mentally or emotionally, and so that's why you see so many black relationships dying or not surviving, because it's like you automatically killing the male. You're not even giving him an opportunity or a chance to even prove himself.
So, Adrian, having heard all of that, I'm a single man, and the dating thing is just ridiculous, because it goes back to how society perceives us, and they always talk about that no good black man. That is so not true. What have you experienced in relationships without, me digging into the personal aspects of it? But we all have experienced these heart-wrenching.
Well, one of the things I think is a big issue is really people not dealing with themselves and looking internally at what you need to work on in yourself. And we don't know how to be happy with ourselves. So when we carry all that stuff from our past experience and this and that over into the next next relationship, then the next relationship, then the next relationship, until, you know, we have all of these people that we've just dumped on. And I think it's on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we as men accept responsibility for our actions, women accept responsibility for their actions. I mean, this goes all the way back to the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Before they listened to the serpent, everything was straight. Everything was good when he did things the right way. As soon as you listen to the serpent, here is the man blaming the woman blaming the snake, the serpent. And so it's like, so you won't take responsibility, you won't take responsibility, so you both get kicked out. And so we end up, you know, with this eternal battle that actually started in the garden. I mean, trouble in relationships started when they allowed the devil to get into and telling them to do something different than what God said. And so I feel like working on yourself and not buying into that stuff. Like, you know, I know tons of men that take care of their children, but we'll isolate because it seems like good men don't have a voice, because the noisy wheel gets all the attention. So the guy who's not taking care of his kid, the guy who has, you know, that's out there abusing women, the guy who's doing all these other things, we are focused on him. Right. But the good guys that are in the trenches, we don't see them. Yes. And because of that, there's no attention put on that. And it's said that hurt people hurt people. So if a woman is hurt, or she is hurt, so that's all she can come. You can't bring out of you what's not in you. And even when they talk about us being givers and they're receivers, some of us have to take responsibility for our stuff. If we abuse women, you got to take responsibility for that. If you not doing so, you got to take responsibility for that and be able to acknowledge that. It's just like if you go to AA, their first thing they're going to say is, you know, you have to acknowledge you're an alcoholic before you can actually get help. So I think it's a lot of really dealing with yourself and working on you to you know, and then also staying away from things. If that's not you, don't accept the label that's not you. Exactly. If you're not a messed up guy or a bad guy, don't accept that. And if you come across someone that's saying that kind of stuff, it's okay to walk away. A powerful word is no. You don't have to accept anything that you don't want to. You can walk away from anything that's not healthy for you, because we as men, we deal with a lot of things as well. So you don't have to accept certain things, you know. And if she's a queen, you a king. Not a court jester, not a prince, not you know. It's got to be equal, because those titles mean something. And we throw them out there real easy. Oh, my queen, my king. They have meaning. They have big meaning.
And I saw this interesting meme one time, and it was like a mountain, and on the mountain it was the man who had a rock on his back, and then the woman, she had a snake. They had like a little hole in the mountain, and the snake was biting her wrist. So I think that's what happens a lot of times, is that you're so focused on your problems and what's going on with you that you're not seeing, okay, well, they don't see the snake biting the woman wrist, and then the woman doesn't see the boulder on the man's back. So it causes this internal enmity that causes problems in relationships that really don't have to be there. If there was just a little bit more understanding and comprehension, which is why communication is so important in any relationship, because to know okay, what you like, what you don't like, you know, like even if issues, non-issues, you know, because you have to know that, because you have to know what you're dealing with. That's right. And what you can take and what you can't take.
Is all key to men, brothers. This can be a series in itself, because it's so important that we know the role of black man and know that everything that society is placing on us is not always necessarily true. We're going to do this again real soon. And thank you, brothers, for coming out and sharing your thoughts We got a chance to talk a little bit about society, how they look at us. We talked about social media, how we're perceived. We talked about the black man's role in the church. We talked about the black man's role in the family, all in an effort to help you find that soft place to fall, because it can be kind of tough out here, brothers. I'll be back to wrap things up right here on A Soft Place to Fall.
A soft place to fall.
Yes, here we are once again with my favorite segment. This segment of the show is so incredible because I get a chance to tap something I like to do often. But I like to tell the good things that people are doing. How many of you know that obedience is better than sacrifice? When God tells you to do something, you should do it. I stand guilty. When we first began this wonderful journey to A Soft Place to Fall, God showed me He wanted to work on this project. I went left and He told me to go right. But by the grace of God, those individuals reached out to me just in the nick of time when I was sinking and did not know how I was going to get out. Their professionalism, their grace, their charm, their personalities are all so incredible. There are three of them that I'm going to tell God on. Martin, Adrian, and Josh. I'm going to tell God on you. If you got someone in your life who has done something incredible and not getting much recognition for what they do, let me know. I'll tell God on them. Email me at asoftplace@yahoo.com and I'll tell God on them for you.
A soft place to fall.
I want to thank my guests today, Adrian and Martin and Charles, who came out and had conversations here on the couch, and we're talking about being a black man in America today and helping we as brothers find that soft place to fall. There's a lot of confusion going on and a lot of talk about the role of the black man. We'll have to do it all over again. This is going to have to be a series. Don't worry, we're going to help you find that soft place to fall. Knowing that things look kind of crazy right now, but we're reminded in Scripture that the suffering of this present age cannot be compared to the glory that shall be revealed in Christ Jesus. So don't worry about it. The victory is already won. Just keep pressing toward the mark of the high calling which is in Christ Jesus. Don't worry about how many mountains you successfully climb, how many goals you have successfully achieved, how many initials you have earned at the back of your name or added there for your convenience. Only what you do for Christ will last. Find your soft place to fall.
With the mouth hanging in the bed.
A soft place to fall.